Welcome to the Open House podcast where women talk real estate. I'm Kristina Moderis.
And I'm Steph Douglas.
Hi. I almost said welcome.
Welcome. I can do more of the heavy lifting if your voice can't take it. Just tap me in.
Sick again.
Yeah. God. I know. I was pickling with Eric while you were sick, and he was like, she's so frustrated.
I know. I was like, is it just because I'm 36 weeks pregnant, or am I like, I think it's because I'm sick, but also I can't tell, like, I've lost it. I'm slowing down.
Yeah.
I'm slowing down.
Which is wild because I feel like this happens earlier for most people. But yeah, you're probably just like carrying a full-size human.
It's weird that she's like, I'm like, aren't you ready to come out now? We were taking photos of me last night because it was, we were just like, I look like an Oompa Loompa, like with stretched legs. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Photo you posted, that was like the biggest I've seen, which makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's crazy.
It's so like fun
looking at myself. No, it's not. It's not fun.
Yeah, it's shifted away from being fun now, probably for you.
Yes. Yeah. Now I'm like, this is comical.
Yeah.
And it's really funny.
It actually, great timing though for your baby shower, because you were in good spirits and like it was so fun.
And then literally 2 days later I got sick, and then I was on the decline. So
yeah. And hopefully there's like, it's not up and down, or it is up and down until your actual pregnancy, actual due date, because it's not just like down from here. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully once I'm not sick anymore.
Yeah, because it's still a month away, right?
Yeah. Less than a month now, because it's March 1st, my due date.
I want you to have a leap day baby so bad. You don't want it? Oh my God.
No. When's her birthday then? Is it the March 1st or March 28th?
I don't know, but it's a cool icebreaker.
My birthday exists like
only 4 times every 4 years.
Every 4 years, yeah.
That's so
Did
cool.
you know that leap year, when an election, like a leap year is because it's an election?
Oh.
I was like, I didn't realize they were connected, but they are.
Wow. I've never considered that, but I guess that makes sense. 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's stressful. Leap year is fun. Election year is not fun.
No, I know. I was like, God damn it! We're here again.
We're here again. We just did it.
I miss pickling.
Oh, I know. Are you done?
I hope not. I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, good. No. I feel like
I want to do a workout class this week and see.
Oh, what? Berries?
No, it's called Grit. It's
okay.
mat Pilates. It's fun.
Cute. You should video yourself. That's so cute.
No. It is funny now. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, look at you!" I'm like, I feel like an old person. Like, is this what it feels like to be old and do anything? They're like, "Look at you moving."
Yeah, moving it, walking on your own. It's amazing. Yeah, it's so exciting, and Eric seems so excited every time I talk to him.
So excited. Yes, it's really cute.
So cute. Yeah. We're gonna have an open house baby. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else happening? I am going to visit. My little sister moved to Hawaii to live with my cousin, probably 6 months ago, and I'm going to visit them on Wednesday.
So fun. I'm excited for you.
So fun. And my cousin is 6 weeks older than me. So speaking of like babies being born close together, because you have so many friends with babies or about to have babies. And it was just so fun growing up with her. Like, it's having people around your age. So we're very close. And then
I didn't realize, I thought she was older than you for some reason.
Yeah.
Because she has like kids and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have another cousin who I'm close to too. This is a different cousin.
Yes.
But yeah, it's exciting. And living in Hawaii is amazing. So, so yeah, I did plan to leave for February because I hate the weather, but the weather's beautiful this February.
I know, it's been so nice. Knock on wood.
My luck will be that as soon as I get back, it starts freezing.
I hope not, because that's when I will have to probably That's
Oh,
when it's like more go time, I guess.
oh,
Who knows?
yes. Who
But
knows?
anyway, what are we
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah.
It's house hacking. We're doing hacking part one of a, I think, 4-part series, and it's sharing our why behind this game changing creative home buying strategy. So, if you're just joining us, last couple months we were talking about buying with friends. So if you're interested in that, go back and listen. And our new theme for the next couple months is going to be house hacking.
House hacking. These
Yes.
there's a reason why these two strategies were like our first of the year, because they are so integral to our success and to our portfolios. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to share my why.
And most people who are house hacking buy, well, not most, but like you can buy with friends and house hack, or you can house hack, it's like they're intertwined. So,
Yes.
do you want to define what house hacking is?
Yes. House hacking is simply renting out a part of your home to cover a piece of your mortgage, or potentially all of your mortgage, or potentially more than your mortgage. And it just depends on what strategies you use, how much money you can make. But yeah, we've done this. We've done this for years and years.
Yeah, that's how we got started. And, you know, I think now anytime we post about buying with friends or house hacking, people are like, this is the only way people can do it now, and like seeing it as a negative, which, I mean, honestly, yeah, housing is very frustratingly expensive at this moment, and it has been for a little bit. Um, but I do think even if it was more affordable, to see your house as an investment, I would say you should probably be utilizing some sort of strategy, and like house hacking strategy. And I I know we hear a lot of realtors or people just in real estate being like, buying a house is always an investment. And it's not. It really isn't, right? Like, I think you
No.
do have to kind of think of it in a creative way, and you can live in a house and it can be an investment. Your first house can be an investment, whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think that the best example of this is Ramit, who we
Mhm.
love, but also he says like people buy houses and they think they're investments, but they really just like money pits. And I think he isn't wrong. There
Ramit
are a lot of
Sethi,
people.
right?
What
He's,
Ramit Sethi, yeah.
if you want to look him up.
Yeah. He is a finance guy. He talks about finance in a really like approachable way, in my opinion. And I think
Mhm.
his stance on real estate, he wants to be inflammatory and he wants to say, I hate real estate, right? But he's not looking at real estate the same way we are. So like we actually
Mhm.
agree with him
Yeah,
in a lot of ways that people do it. They're buying a house that's too expensive, too big for them, and then they're paying a lot more money than they should be.
right. Yeah, I do hear people, like, even when they're talking to me, they're always uh like someone this weekend was like, "Oh yeah, I just bought or we just built our house. It's 3,000 square feet." And they were like, "Well, and it's going to be an investment." And I was like, "It's fine. Like, you
Yeah.
don't, it's probably not going to be an investment. Like, this is like, let's not, it's fine. You can have
Right.
a house you love and like are going to live in for a while, and that's totally fine, but that probably is not an investment."
Yeah, no shame. Yeah, exactly. No shame either way. But I do think that when you think about real estate and you think about real estate agents, you think, oh, they're gonna try to get me to spend the top of my budget, and the lender's gonna
Mhm.
get me to push my budget to the very maximum. And you've heard the term house poor. That's what we're trying to avoid. And so if you love your house and you don't want to share it with anyone and you don't want to make any money from it, that is your prerogative. But I think that there's a lot of power in being able to utilize space and cover a large portion of your living expense, because for most people that is their largest expense every month. So having been able to ourselves cover it almost completely has been super powerful for our wealth building and like freedom building journeys.
Yeah, I agree. And we both started off house hacking before we even bought our first house, right?
Yeah.
With renting, because like I lived in a, I remember living in, like, well, when I first moved to Austin, living in like a 5-bedroom house. It was in Clarksville. Yeah, it was Clarksville area. Um and it was old, falling apart, cockroaches, rats. But I was like, oh my gosh, I get to live in such a cool area. I can walk to places, walk to the trail. This isn't Austin. It's a very like rich area, but this house was obviously like just a tear down. And I our more our because the house was so old, our utility bill was $500 or more a month in the summer, which was so much money. I think that was like I was paying $600 as rent. So it was kind of insane. So um we had a back area, a back room. I didn't know you then. No, I didn't.
No, I
Um,
didn't see that one.
they tore it down like a year after we left, moved out. But so this big lounge area that we had like a TV in, and we had like futons, and it went out to our backyard. We would Airbnb that for like $60 or $50 a night, and people would stay there and they would just use it. Was like so insane that people would use like we shared 2 bathrooms among 5 people already, and then people would, like, rent that out for really cheap, like groups would. And I was like,
Yeah,
"Wow, we are cheap."
scrappy.
Um, yes.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to that, like the sharing space and like you're so young, what's one more person, what's two more people? Like if we can cover our utilities, amazing.
Imagine that
And
now,
I
like,
know, I know.
I would be like,
It's
"Never."
so funny. And I lived in a 4 bedroom house, and obviously every room was filled. At one point I lived in the same room as my friend. We like just really lived well together, and we wanted to
Yeah.
minimize our expenses. And then our other friend moved to Austin, and we were like, you're going to be at our house all the time anyway. And so she moved into the closet under the stairs. It was big enough for a twin bed, and she made it really cute. She had like a little shelving area. She hung her pictures. It was
I
really
prefer
cute.
that over sharing the room with someone else, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, it's very private. I think she paid $120 a month.
My gosh.
And yeah, that was my first taste of house hacking. And then both of us, I think, kind of realized, wait, if we can do this with renting, why wouldn't we just own the home, start building equity, and then rent out pieces of it? Because we know we can, like we've done it before.
And yeah, so I saw on the TikTok video you posted this last week, you were talking about equity, and someone asked, "What is equity?" Do you want to also go into that a
Oh,
little bit? Because maybe people don't know.
that is so good. We are so deep in this world that yeah. So equity is the difference between what you owe and how much your house is worth. So, for example, the house that I bought then right after that 4 bedroom house I lived in, I bought it for 180. And
Mm.
I've since paid it down. I owe about 120 now. I still own that house. It's a rental property for me. So I will owe 120, and it's worth about 500,000. So
Mm.
I have about $380,000 of
Whew.
equity. Now equity is not realized, right? Like it's there, but it's not like I can't access that right now. It's just there, I know, and it's building.
Yeah.
Does it go down and up? Like, yes, I had more equity when the houses were worth more a couple of years ago. But that's okay.
And I will say, please do not expect to buy a house for 180 and get 400 or 300K in equity within a couple years.
That is a good point. This was 10 years. This is over 10 years ago that I
This was
bought this
over
house.
10
Yeah.
years ago, and you bought in a booming city, like a city
Yeah.
that grew exponentially. So,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
realistically, now you might buy a house for like 300 to 500, and then hopefully in the 10 years that you go to sell it, you are gaining equity that's like equity that's like still like in the 50,000 to hopefully 150,000 range, and or even more. But like, so you're hopefully gaining that equity, and then also with house hacking, what that's not really going toward that has nothing to do with equity. It has everything to do with your monthly payment, right? Because
Mhm.
every month you you're paying your mortgage payment, but a lot of that is going to interest, and it's not going to principal, which is paying down your um or
Your mortgage
helping you,
balance.
yeah, and helping you gain
Yes.
or yeah, paying down your mortgage balances. So that's the house hacking. We don't rely on equity, right? We can't always rely on that. Like that is, you just never know what life is going to throw you. Like let's say you plan to hold a house for 10 to 15 years, but then you're like, I want to sell, I need to sell it, or I want to sell it, or I need to sell it. You can't depend on equity if you're going to sell in, less than 5 years.
Yes.
So that's why we love house hacking, because that's eliminating your monthly payment or lowering your monthly payment. So hopefully you're not paying interest every month at least, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. That was a funny example for me to use. It was just on that subject, but yeah, I think not like being really realistic about the market, and then also getting someone on your team, like your realtor, that will let you know what the rate of appreciation has been over the past couple of years, like what to expect, because it's changing literally every day.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think house hacking is a great way to minimize your monthly expenses. And that is like in the now. It's like less long term and more like, okay, I'm gonna get this house so that I can start building equity, which is a long term play. And then my short term play is house hacking. And that's going to help me cover all of this and ideally make it so that I'm living my quality of life is higher.
Exactly. Okay, do you want to talk about, I guess, your kind of like unique why with house hacking, why you got into it? We kind of talked about that, but like, and how you
Yeah.
started off.
Yeah, I was a teacher. If you're just tuning in now, you probably don't know that, but I taught elementary school, and so did my mom. And we we're pretty similar in that we're very scrappy. And so when I when I figured out that I could, charge people to live somewhere and I could charge reasonable amounts, and that like is a was a big impact on me because I wasn't making tons of money. I realized like if I could cover a portion or all of my living expenses, my life would be a lot different, and especially at that age. Now, house hacking is possible at all ages, but my why was I'm just trying to like get as much space filled and charge as much
Mhm.
as I can in a reasonable amount so that I can, live a good life. And
You
so
were younger, you had more time, you
yeah,
were you're more
risk
risk averse.
exactly. So I bought a house with my mom. We DIY renovated it and we built out this little building in the back. Like we bought it, it had a detached garage. And once that was finished, first of all, I felt so empowered, so confident. And then I was like, okay, what's the strategy here? Like, what's the best case? Like, I know for me, all I need at the time is a room and a bathroom and
Mhm.
my kitchen. And so I figured, okay, I have these other spaces that I could be creative with. And I got a roommate for one of the rooms. I got a Airbnb the other room, and then I Airbnb the back house that we built out as well. And that covered my expenses for the month, which was amazing. And then I that was like the short term play. And then 2 years later, my mom was like, okay, I'm ready to move to Austin. And she had helped with this. She owned 50% of this property. And she was like, I'm moving into the back house. And I was like, okay, cool. I love that for you. I will not, I can't at this point in my life live on the same property as my mom. so I ended up moving out. But like it was perfect. It was a perfect amount of time for me to stay there to in the short term cover my expenses, and then she
Mhm.
had a place to land when she moved to Austin. And so it's kind of a cool like multi-generational house hacking story, and that inspired me from then on to continue to house hack in all the living situations past that.
That's amazing. So when you guys bought that house together, or she was a partner with you, how did that work? Because I think also people are always like, how do you pay the mortgage? So how did
Yes.
that work? Or who was, or her rent? Was she like rent, how was
Yeah,
that working?
that's a great question. So while I was there, I was in charge of the whole entire mortgage. So she got nothing. She didn't have to pay anything and she didn't get any of the income. I covered the entire thing with the rental with the people who paid me rent. My roommate, my Airbnb, and then the second Airbnb. So there were three streams of income from the property. Once my mom moved in and I moved out, it switched. I was then not responsible for any of the mortgage, but I also didn't get any of the cash flow, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Mhm.
So she moved into the back house. Her and her partner love tiny living. They were excited to live in the back house, and they rent out the front house, which is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, on Airbnb. They cover their entire mortgage plus some, plus quite a bit, and they get to keep all of that money because they're managing, they're living
Mhm.
there. You know, if for some reason 1 month it didn't cover the mortgage, they would have to cover the difference.
Mm.
So like,
Yeah.
I think that it feels very fair to me, even though that property is making more money than the mortgage. Like, I'm not seeing any of that money, but I also don't have to worry about it.
Right. That's fair. And like everyone can do this differently, right? Like
Right.
you just have to know what makes sense for you, what's fair to you, and have a good conversation. And again, I guess it is kind of going back to partnerships and buying with friends, buying with family. Um, but it yeah, it's you have to have open communication, have hard conversations.
Yeah.
So but I'm glad you guys were able to do that.
Yeah. And then we are building equity. We just continue to build equity
Mhm.
together. And we know that in our operating agreement, we own that house 50/50. So at the end of the day, if it ever sells, we get back everything we put in personally, and then we split the profit 50/50.
Right. And typically me and you have done a strategy of we buy a distressed house or a house that needs a little bit of work. So there's already hopefully we're building some equity there. You got to pay attention to how much you're spending versus how much you bought the house for. But then we are also partnering with someone. So we are finding distressed houses. We're partnering with people, and then we are house hacking them. So that has been kind of like our strategy throughout the last like our career of real
Yeah.
estate,
Yeah.
10 plus years.
What about yours? Like, what is your why?
So why I got into house hacking in the beginning, so I was 26 or something like that when I was like, I want to buy a house, but I want to live in the house. I want to live in a house that I was used to living in, great neighborhoods, like that I could walk to with coffee shops. And at this time I was living with like in a little basement apartment with a
Yes.
friend.
I went to that one.
Yes, it was a little hobbit house, and I walked out of my door and it was like overlooking the city. I only paid 700 plus utilities a month. It was crazy. Uh, but I was like, again, I had previously bought a house with a friend, but it was in San Antonio because it was like what I could afford. And I quickly realized I was like, this is not the way I want to get into real estate. Like, I didn't like it kind of felt like I was like a bad person. I know I wasn't, but I was like, I almost, because I bought a place in a area I didn't know. I didn't like, it felt like it was a distressed property. I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning a lot and like didn't love going there. It didn't feel right to me. And so I was like, I really want a place to live. Like I want to buy a house and live in it. So, um, I couldn't do that on my own. And if I did it on my own, my budget was only going to be like 180,
Mm-hmm.
which was almost impossible to do. So I was like really torn on what to do. I was like, do I just buy a townhouse, one bedroom in a location that is better than like if I bought a house or whatever? So at that price point, so I approached my sister and asked her because she was living in LA. No, New York City. She's in fashion, so she like goes between those two cities. And she was just had her first, big girl job. She'd graduated 2 years prior and had this really lucrative job, but she was living in a really expensive city, had no intention of buying there because she didn't know what she was going to do with her career. So I asked her, I was like, do you want to try to partner? I have cash, I have time, I know this real estate stuff. I'm a realtor. Um, and she had the W-2 job and the willingness. She wanted to get into something like this. So we bought a house together, East Austin. Um, she was on the loan. I put in all the initial money to fix up the home. I basically did everything. She was like a silent partner. And she came like for a weekend with my dad and we were like playing house, like we were painting, but I literally did everything. I was like, guys, we gotta do. They like helped me paint like one room and
Like,
then
took a picture.
and took photos. My dad like broke down a wall. Like he would have been, I mean, he was not helpful. It was just like, it was more of like a fun trip together. And then, so I like figured it out kind of on my own, but it was really nice to be able to get approved for a higher budget. I got approved for 380 with my sister, bought a house for no, not 380. Oh my gosh. 300. I wish I had gotten approved for that. But no, got approved for 300, bought a house for 280. It was a 3-bed, 1-bath. I lived in one of the rooms. I one of the rooms had its own entrance, so I Airbnb that room, and then I um midterm rented the middle room, so like 3 to 6 months people would come to stay, just cuz I was like, I don't know if I want a year roommate
Yeah.
that I don't know anymore.
Right.
So that worked out, and my goal for this that first year to keep maintain what I was paying before. So I wanted to pay $700 all in or less, and I was able to do, I think it was 3 or 630 to 650 a month. Like I only had to pay for my like living expenses,
Yeah.
my rent. And that was my mortgage payment essentially this
House hacking.
because of house hacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And you still own that house?
Yes, I still own it, and it wasn't in the location that was, like, as good as right downtown across the street from Whole Foods, but
Yeah.
the location continues to get better. It's in a very central zip code. It's now, like, literally a minute away from one of the best restaurants in Austin. Well, I don't know if I think that, but it's voted the best restaurant in Austin.
Shade. No.
People love it, but it's in a great location, and I learned a lot, and I rent it out now to
Yeah.
friends.
That's similarly when I bought the one that I was just talking about, I was like, I think it might be a little too far. And
Mhm.
it's like very, very close, quote unquote, now. Like obviously it hasn't moved, but things have moved closer to it.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of nice. And I love that you spent, I know mine was, I did it a couple years before you, my very first house, the one
Mhm.
that was 180, but like you spent 280 and like that's possible right now. Like
Yeah.
we're seeing properties in Austin
Mhm.
and surrounding areas for high 200s and then into the high 300s. Very, very possible right now, which is kind of cool.
Right, the strategy that we were able to do so long ago, you can do now. The only thing that's changed are instead of interest rates being 3 or 4%, they're 5 or 6%.
Mhm.
And instead of being able to buy a mile from downtown, you're gonna be able to buy like 3 to 5 miles from downtown.
Exactly.
So,
Those are the
still
differences.
amazing,
Yeah.
and the outcome will still be the same where you're like, "It feels a little far," and then, like, 6 years later, you'd be like, "Whoa, that's not far."
Yes.
Like, Austin has so much to grow. Like, I'm from Atlanta, and you're from Houston, so
Yeah.
like, those are huge metropolitan cities.
Yeah, it is some it's a way to set yourself up for the future. Like house
Mhm.
hacking might not sound like the most ideal right now, but when you shift your mindset to thinking, okay, I can do this for 3 years.
Mhm.
I could do this for 2.5 years until then I can afford to buy my a nicer house that's more private or whatever it is. We've all bought houses, actually more so me, but I've bought a house, lived in it for 2 years, and then bought again like
Mhm.
3 or 4 times in Austin. And every time you do that, you're able to put 5% down.
Mhm.
And so it's just like a really low barrier to entry. And buying one house doesn't mean you stay in that house for 30 years.
No, that's such a good point, and I forgot to also kind of talk about I wanna talk about how I then transitioned into a different house where I house hacked,
Mhm.
but it's completely different, and it's a new way that me and you haven't really done before. And I'll tell you, I mean, I'll be truthful about how it's been going, but, uh, so I lived in that other house that I just talked about for 5 years, which I wasn't planning to do. I was planning to live there 2 to 3 years, and then I don't wanna say I didn't get trapped there. I put myself there, and I took other risks where we started a business together, me and Steph, and then I also bought a house, with my sister in Florida. So, like, I sacrificed like, I thought I was going to live with 1 bathroom for, like, 2 to 3 years with a part with then, my boyfriend Eric moved in, and after living there for just like 6 months. So I only thought that was going to be a 2 to 3 year sacrifice, which it turned into more. Um, but from that, uh, after that situation, it really pushed me into wanting to live in a very different situation, especially with wanting to start a family. And me and my partner Eric, like, we were like, okay, we need to buy something that doesn't need to be fixed up all the time,
Mm-hmm.
or even like fixed up at all. We don't have that energy right now. So we bought a new construction home that really was at the top of our budget. And like looking back, I don't know if that was risky, right? Like it wasn't, and it's after last year, 2023, that was like a hard year. That's
Yeah.
not, I mean, that was a hard year for most people financially. And so but how we were able to afford it was we house hacked. So I think we bought that house. It was mm, nine something.
Yeah. Right under 1 million, but closer to 9.
Yeah. And it was shocking
Yeah.
that we even got approved for that. And so our mortgage was high. It was 5% interest rate. And we were like, the only way we could get into something like this, that we didn't have to leave our neighborhood. And we would have 2,000 square feet, which we were coming from an 880 square foot home,
Yeah.
was if we house hacked. So we found a house where in the front there was a room with a window. So we turned the window into a sliding glass door. We sectioned off that part of our house with a secret like bookshelf door. And then we did something called a sneaky duplex, which is a strategy of house hacking. So that is another way that you can do it instead of having people like rent rooms from you. You section off a part of your home. Steph did that. You've done that a few times too,
Yeah.
right? So it's like a nice hotel room.
Right.
And our goal was to make $2,000 a month from that. And Eric always gets stressed out about it. He's like, oh my God, we don't have enough renters. But I always go back to my spreadsheet, go back to the numbers. And I'm like, we have hit our goal this year. Like let's go back to that.
On
So
average.
on average, yes, not
Yeah.
every month, but on average, that's what we're
Yes.
doing. And then so that's how we were able to do it. And, it can be stressful when you do that at the top of your budget. So I wouldn't advise you doing that as your first step into house hacking,
Yeah.
but you can sneaky duplex a house and it doesn't have to be that expensive.
Right, right. And I mean, we did something similar. I mean, we've been very parallel. But we were ready to live in a nice house similarly, and we were ready to like have a little bit more privacy. And because we've been house hacking and now I'm, with Alan, we're engaged. We were ready to move up.
Yeah.
And we stretched our budget as well, but we bought a house with a ADU, like a garage
Mhm.
apartment essentially, and we rent that out on Airbnb. And similarly, like I think that's why we are good to advise clients and to advise our team on how to work with people, because you shouldn't stretch your budget. But it did allow us to like move into these beautiful homes. I don't
Mhm.
regret it because I love this house so much.
Mhm.
And I think in the long run, these houses are going to be really, really good for our portfolio. But like in the short term, we're just having to, kind of hustle in the background, like make sure that
Right.
they're rented and make sure that they're managed well, and that all of those things.
Mhm.
But we're like luxury house hacking now.
I know we are. And honestly, it helped. I will not call this house an investment because I do not think if we sold it today it would be, but it has elevated, like it has helped my quality of life so much, where the last place we were living with was really stressful. Like me and my partner are both entrepreneurs. We went through COVID in that house together. We had two animals in that house together. We lived together with also having two roommates essentially in that house. So it with one bathroom, it really tested our relationship for the best, I guess. But we were at our last straw with that house. We needed to get out,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that we made that decision. But it if anyone has any questions about, or like want to talk to me about that kind of, if they're in the same situation. I feel like some people are,
Yeah.
where they're like, oh, I don't know if I should move, but I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Always happy to talk to you, because it's hard. It was
Yeah.
hard to know what to do.
That's why we love real estate so much though. It's so intertwined with your life and your lifestyle and your quality of life, and like it is a balancing act. It's like, okay, I could live in a teeny tiny apartment that isn't nice and spend very very little, but like where does that put me as far as quality of life goes? And so you have to make those decisions, and it's so personal. It's like some
Mhm.
people are totally fine with that. Christoph, he could live in a literal box for the rest of his life and he would be fine, you know? And
Yeah.
that's just not me. And so it's really, really personal. And so we try, when we work with people here in Austin to help them find their best situation for them, we talk them through like, okay, what are your deal breakers? What are some things that like really excite you? And then how can we be creative about those things and then utilize this space to make you income, or to like be an office so you can have your business here. So I
Mhm.
don't know, it's so personal.
Yeah, it really is, and that's such a good point. Like, my dad has lived in the same place for so long, and I'm like, he had roommates at one point. I was like, "You are in your 50s when you're doing this." But he doesn't care. He's like,
Yeah.
"I'm saving money. I shower at the gym. I like it's that's his that makes him happy, I guess. It's or that's
Yes.
his trauma to figure out, not
Yeah.
mine." So everyone is their own person, goes through different stages at different times of their life. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you got married really early and now you're in your like roommate going out phase. Who knows? Like,
Yeah.
so it's everyone's on their own journey, and
Exactly.
we've been on our you know, what am I trying to say? What's the word? My brain. Scrappy life. We've been on our
Yes.
scrappy life, and we're in a phase of we don't want that anymore, and maybe one day we'll go back to that. Who
Yeah.
knows? I don't know.
And it is so nice that we've kind of figured out the a way to house hack at every stage, you know. If
Mhm.
you're listening to this and you're 24 and you're renting right now with three other people, there is an incredible house hacking opportunity for you. If you're listening to
Mhm.
this and you're like, I literally would murder someone if they were in my kitchen and left a dish in there, then we have a situation for, you know, we have
Yeah.
a way if you want to like actually make a decent amount of money from your house, we have ways.
Yeah.
So I think it's fun and it's interesting, and if you're open to being creative, then you can really like put power behind your freedom, your savings, like whatever you value as well on the other side of it. Like, do you want a
Mhm.
more luxurious life? You want to travel more, or do you want to be safer in the long run? Like all of those things.
Yeah, that's true. Before we hop off, I don't think we really talked about the different ways you can house hack. We kind of like brushed over it a little, but there's so many different ways you can house hack. You know, you can
Yes.
buy a duplex, live in one side, rent the other side out. You know, you can have roommates, you can Airbnb a room and they use your house, you can Airbnb a room and they don't use your house, which is what we call sneaky duplex.
Yeah.
You can even rent out. One of our clients bought a house with a lot of land and rented out the land to someone with an RV. You can
Yes,
do
you can
that.
rent out studio space to an artist. You
Mhm.
can like all these things, and we will go into more detail in future episodes.
Mhm.
This is our theme. So, just if you're like, wait, I want to know how to do that. We have really good examples of each of these things, but just
Yes,
know that there are so many different options.
exactly. And we're excited to talk to you more about it. So, yeah, let's okay, we have to leave. You have to leave doing something, right? Like, you got to be actionable with a lot of this that you're taking away, because I do know it's like very important to listen to like really motivating things and like talk to your friends about wanting to do this, but then you need to leave with some action steps. So,
Yeah.
yeah, what do
Yeah.
you?
I would say thinking about like first it is a mindset, of course, thinking about like, okay, this is seeming like a really good option for me, thinking about what areas you love, and what options like you're open to. And then it's all about creating your strategy, right? And
Mhm.
hiring the right team, getting on a call with an open house agent, and talking them through your thought process.
Yeah, and I would definitely like think about your own financial situation. Like,
Yeah.
really think about where you're spending, how much you're saving, and for what. I will be honest that like the last year I was really bad at that. And now going back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have like done this or that. And like, it makes me excited to and hopeful that like there's so many options, and just because you haven't done that yet doesn't mean that you can't start now. So look at what you're spending on. If you do want to talk to us more about your situation, if you're in Austin, our team helps people like you every single day. So jump on a call and they can help you
Yes.
come up with a game plan, where you're like, oh, I want to buy in 2 years, but we're like, why? And then you're like, I don't know, that just sounds like a better time. I don't know. And so they can be like, okay, let's look at your why 2 years. Maybe you could do it in 6 months. Maybe you could do it in a year. Maybe you can't do it in 2 years. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
So
Yes, we have people who hop on calls in every single stage of that. And if you are hopping on a call with an agent, that means you're in Austin. Then if you're not in Austin, we have so many resources. Like we have blogs, we have lots of other podcasts about this. Like go into the backlogs and get some motivation, and then talk to your friends about it.
yeah, exactly. So this week we kind of talked about like the why we did things with house hacking, why we got into it. And next week we'll share more of like how to like more of the deeper nitty gritty of how the hows of house hacking, and we'll start to give you like practical strategies and tips for you to get started.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. I love house hacking.
Me too.
Okay. All right. See y'all next week.
Bye.